It's the day after Gearfest. I've not long come home from work and I thought I'd give you a quick tour of the studio as it stands. It's my DJ gear over here, and then as we sweep across we come to the makeshift vocal booth, which of course isn't a booth at all. It's actually an SE Electronics reflection filter with some extra acoustic foam scraps actually that I got from my sister the other day. Thanks sis. So it's forming a little arch, and that's basically to protect the vocals from reflections coming from the ceiling. And then, like I said, the mic's here. If I quickly pull down the pop shield, and there's the mic. I say the mic, obviously I have more than one mic. Well, I say obviously, it's not that obvious. Not everyone's got more than one mic, but I do. And this is the mic I've been using mostly lately, certainly for vocals. And that's an upside down United Technologies UT Twin 87. And like I said, it's in a kind of faux vocal booth because this is a one-room studio. One small room studio. So that's that. Then as we sweep across, you can see in the corner, I've got some acoustic treatment, and that goes right down to the floor behind the speakers there. And then behind the desk, there are more panels. I say panels. It's basically stiff rock wool insulation that I've wrapped in fabric, but the stuff in the corner, that's exactly in the corner, that's actually two GIK tri-corner traps on top of each other. So two in that corner and two in that corner. If you can hear something in the background, that'll be my new fan, which if I go like that, hopefully you can see it's poking up just above the screen there. At the moment it's in auto mode. Let's see if we can catch a glimpse of the temperature it's detecting. It looks like it's on setting 6, which means that it has detected that the ambient temperature is 26 degrees. In auto mode goes from 0 to 12. 12 is 32 degrees or higher Celsius. In this case it's 6, so it must be 26 degrees. Here we have my actually fairly big desk here. Probably too big for this room. Probably too big for any studio really, in terms of reflections and what have you. Which is why I've got some more of those acoustic foam scraps that my sister had from some work that she had done in her house. And I've got them wrapped over the back of the desk and my mixing desk and the equipment that's on the studio desk, and that's just to help with reflections coming back from the studio desk. Up here in the corner I have a small TV which I'm using as a second monitor. That's so that I can see what's going on when I'm recording in OBS. I've got my bass here, which if you look closely you'll see it once was a 4-string bass, but it's now only a 3-string bass because I went to change the strings the other day and somehow managed to break the tuning peg while tuning the bottom string or top string. I'm not sure how guitarists name that stuff, but yeah, one of the two. And then over here, covered neatly, is my MIDI controller, and one of the cameras that I use, I say camera, it's actually an old busted up phone that I use for OBS. And if I turn around and look up there, you can see the other old phone, not as old as the first one, but old enough that is also just used as a camera for OBS. So apart from the fan, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, I also got some new stuff in my rack. I've changed the power distribution, the switched power distribution units for new ones, because one of the switches on one of the old ones was a bit dodgy. The other one's okay, but I actually only need 2 currently, although I've left space, as you can see, so I can always put in the 3rd one if necessary. And down here, I'm not sure how well they're coming up on the camera, but where there were 4 patch bay units, there are now 5. The top one, as you can see, has got a little red label on it. I've actually got two with those little red labels on them, and those are set up as throughs. Everything else is set up as half normal, and the bottom two are brand new P48 patch bays from ART. I still have all of the old patch bays, but I'm not sure how reliable they were, being so old and beaten up. Figured I'd get a couple of new ones and pull one of the through units that I had not connected to anything and put that in. So now I've got 5 units instead of 4. And you may be asking, well, why do you need the extra one? This is what the patch bay looked like before the recent purchases. This is what the patch bay looks like after. Before, if you see down the bottom, the last patch bay, I only had 22 of the 24 available outputs from my audio interface going to the patch bay, and they went from tape return 3 to tape return 24 on the mixing desk. The first 2 outputs were going to the Audient Nero, so that they in turn could go to the monitors. Also, the first 2 inputs on the audio interface, the Evo 16, because they were on the front, I gave up on using them as part of the whole audio interface as I would normally use it, and just plugged mics into them so that I could record things like this. So basically I was giving up 2 inputs and 2 outputs from my audio interface because of the way that it was set up, its physical layout. And I changed from that to this, and part of the reason why I have an extra patch bay, so I've gone from 4 to 5, is because the new audio interface has an extra 8 inputs. Now, 2 of those inputs, 1 and 2, are available on the front, just like the Evo 16. However, unlike the Evo 16, you can choose between using the front inputs or the rear inputs. So I can still have the rear inputs permanently connected to my patch bay, and therefore the new audio interface has 32 inputs and 24 outputs going to the patch bay, and I still have another 2 outputs, the 2 main outputs 1 and 2, going to the Audient Nero and then on to the monitors. So in total I have 32 inputs and 26 outputs compared to the 24 in 24 out of the Evo 16, and that plus the form factor, the physical structure, are the reasons why I changed my audio interface. And the extra patch bay, the one with the red label that I showed you earlier, I said it was through. As you can see down here, I've labeled them through, half normal, half normal, half normal. Well, the through patch bay has got the direct outputs from the mixing desk going to the line inputs on the mixing desk. Now, obviously, if they were directly connected, as soon as you put up a fader, you would get feedback, which is why I've got them connected to a through patch bay instead of a normal patch bay. And so if I want to put anything into the desk, I can literally take a lead from any of these red lines, the outputs, and plug it into any of the light blue lines, inputs on the desk. And if I want to record from the desk, I can take any of the dark blue outputs and patch it to any of the green line inputs. If you see my previous videos, you will know that my audio interface is an Evo 16 by Audient. Well, that is not an Evo 16 by Audient. That is a Audiofuse 16 rig by Arturia. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Some French company anyway. And the reason that I switched to this, although it still has the 2 inputs on the front, which I hated on the Evo 16, partly because it meant wires poking out the front and coming around the back, those 2 inputs on the front can be overridden using the Arturia software, which I've got on the screen right there. And if I step closer to the SM7, you can see, if I'm keeping the camera straight at the same time, you can see that I've got the SM7 connected to one of the front inputs currently. But I can easily change. What I'm going to do is switch from this camera to OBS so that you can get a clearer look at it. Underneath where you see that signal coming in, we have the gain, a pad, a phase control, and then the next one down says rare. And if you notice the two inputs to the right of the first two, labeled analog in 3 and analog in 4, that rare button is illuminated. And that means that inputs 3 and 4 are connected to the rear, i.e. the back of the machine. But currently, inputs 1 and 2, which says front mic 1 and front mic 2, those rear or back or other side, however you want to describe it, those two buttons are not illuminated, which means that the front two inputs for 1 and 2, those two yellow cables there, they're connected. And one of them, input 1, is connected to the SM7B. Like I said, I was at Gearfest yesterday, enjoyed the show, didn't really see much that I haven't seen before. Of course, there were a couple of exceptions. The new mixing desk by SSL, the Oracle, that wasn't available last year. And there were also some monitors from a company called Head, HEDD. Shout out to Kevin. I'll give you a call sometime soon, hopefully, when I get some time off from work. But yeah, they came in two sizes, 5-inch driver and 7-inch driver. And each size also came in two flavours, with and without DSP. If I'd heard the ones without DSP by themselves, I would have been very impressed. In fact, I was very impressed. Even the 5-inch drivers, the depth in terms of frequency that they were able to produce, very impressive. However, when they were compared literally side by side with the versions with DSP, it wasn't a black and white difference, but there was clearly a difference between the non-DSP version and the version with DSP. They are pretty expensive. They're not the most expensive monitors in the world, but they do have a hefty price tag, but it's not an unmanageable price tag if I save up for it. And having heard them in the flesh, so to speak, I think that they're easily worth what they're asking for. So I'm very seriously considering how quickly I can save up the money to get a pair. Whether I'll go for the 7-inch version or the 5-inch version, I've yet to decide. As you've just seen, this isn't the biggest room in the world. However, the speakers that I have in here at the moment, which are the Cali Audio IN8, have 8-inch woofers, 8-inch drivers, and I never have them at full tilt. I don't need to have them at full tilt, not in this room. And obviously I wouldn't be doing that with the head monitors either. So I don't know, I might go for the 7s, I might go for the 5s. Obviously there's a price difference and I have to take all that into consideration. But like I said, having heard them, I do think they are worth the asking price. So if you get a chance to audition them for yourselves, which you can do if you go onto their website, I believe they do a loan program where you can borrow them for a couple of weeks, whatever it is. They'll come and set them up for you and give you a chance to audition them in your own space, and then you can make a decision based on that. So if you do get that opportunity and you've got the money and the need for a new set of monitors, then I think they're definitely worth checking out. But most of the stuff, like I said, apart from those two things, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head that was on show this year that wasn't on show last year. And indeed, the Osbergers that I saw last year, I didn't see them there this year. I don't know if the guy didn't come or if they were just put in a different place and I just didn't find them. But whatever happens, they weren't there. Now those monitors are like 15 grand for the set, but that does include the amplification, which is purpose built for the monitors. It's a monitoring system, it's not just a pair of speakers. But yeah, 15 grand, that is way, I mean, that would buy this studio twice over probably. Well, not quite, but yeah, it could certainly buy everything in this studio very easily. This being a bedroom in a 1930s terraced house, it's not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. It would be a waste to put something of that quality in this room, even if I did have the money. Of course, if I did have that type of money, I wouldn't be in this room. I'd be somewhere else more appropriate. So yeah, I just thought I'd give a quick heads up if you'll pardon the pun, to Kevin. And also big shout out to all the YouTubers that I met along the way. Ed Fawn, nice geezer. I saw Paul Third, but I didn't get a chance to chat to him, but he seems quite nice as well. I didn't speak to Nick Bat or Yoad Nevo, but I saw them there as well. Warren Hewitt, I saw him on a few occasions, but every time I saw him, he was either rushing somewhere or he was on the phone or he was already talking to someone. So not one to interrupt people, generally speaking. I didn't say hi to him this time, but if he's there next year, or if I get another chance to meet him, I will introduce myself, because he's a genuinely nice guy. Who else did I see? Sorry for the interruption, but there's an omission from what I was saying about Gearfest and the people I met there, for 3 reasons. A, I have a very, very bad memory. 2, I was dog tired, and I still am. And thirdly, I forget. Oh, I don't write anything down. I don't have a script that I go by. So between the first 2 and that last one, if I don't write anything down, then there's a good chance that I'm going to forget to say it. The omission was that I had a brief but also wholesome encounter with Mark from Present Day Productions. I did see James through a sliver of glass, and I did see James's mate Tyrone, but I didn't speak to either of them. But I did have a quick chat with Mark, and I think it's nice to know that people who appear nice actually are nice. And that's what I can say about Mark. Nice guy, and I hope to have future interactions with him. I bumped into someone who I totally did not expect to see there. There's a crew from East London, if you're into hip-hop, called The Quarantine. In my DJ days, I had one of them, a guy called Skillet, on my show a couple of times. Sometimes I would invite people who I thought were interesting onto the show to play some music, chat about their lives and see what's going on with them. And he was one of those people. In fact, like I said, I invited him on twice. He's part of The Quarantine. And there's also another member of The Quarantine. Well, there's five of them, or 6 if you include the DJ. And of those 5, 3 are producers, and as well as rappers. The producers are Pyro Bars, although apparently he's only got into production more recently. Loudmouth Melvin, and the third one is K-Night 13. And it was K-Night who I bumped into at the Gearfest, and I was very pleased to see him. It's always good to see someone who you respect. And we had a quick chat, not a long thing, because again, I didn't really want to encroach on people's time. But yeah, it was good to have a quick chat with him and find out what he's been up to, including, and I don't think it's a secret because the album should be out now, he's got placements on the Open Mic Eagle album that's just come out. So I haven't picked that up yet, but I will be doing that because I'm a fan of Open Mic Eagle as well. Although, of course, he wasn't at Gearfest. He's got better things to do than come to London on a rainy day in July. Overall, enjoyed the experience. Wish that there were more new things for me to see. Although, in a way, I'm glad that there weren't, because I don't really have the money to be buying stuff. So I've just spent money on the things that I showed you earlier in the racks and my new fan, which is still going, by the way. I've just turned it from auto mode to its lowest setting, so you probably can't hear it, which is one of the reasons I got it. So I can still cool down my equipment, which is the main reason I got it, and use the equipment at the same time, and it's barely audible in the room. It's barely audible, and when I'm mixing or tracking, probably when I'm tracking, I'll turn it off. And if I'm mixing something critical, like something with really low dynamics but that needs to be mixed, then I might turn it off then. But under normal circumstances, I can have it on its lowest setting, which is what it's on now, and it wouldn't disturb me and my work that I'm doing in the studio. But at the same time, it's still keeping the equipment cool, which is a big bonus because, as I already mentioned, I'm surrounded by what is basically insulation, albeit wrapped in fabric, most of it, but it's still it is rock wool. It's meant for insulation. So the heat that comes out of the equipment goes into the rock wool and kind of stays there, which makes the room hot, which is why, even though it's a much cooler day today than it has been for the last couple of weeks, it's still very warm in the studio, even with all the equipment off, because you saw earlier that I have all the switched units are off. The only thing that I've got on at the moment is, well, the desk is on and I've got this lot on, but this lot doesn't really generate much heat. Maybe, and then I've got my audio interface on, obviously, because that's how I'm recording. Other than that, it's most of the equipment in here is off. Most of the stuff that makes heat is off, and it's still very warm in this room simply because of all the insulation that's in here. But without it, this room would be unusable as a studio. You've just got to deal with it. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, really. So if you're there next year, hopefully we'll see each other. I'll be happy to speak to anyone who wants to speak to me. I'm much more approachable in real life than I appear on video, and I'll be happy to make new friends and talk about music. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time or not. And either way, I hope you do something that makes you happy.